Hello and welcome to This Really Happened, a place where unbelievable, heart-touching true stories come to life. Sometimes surprising, sometimes bittersweet, always real. Grab a drink and settle in. We're about to begin. Alice came to school early today. Rather, she didn't even come. Her mum drove her. They had argued with her father again yesterday, and her mum hadn't slept all night, so she took her daughter to school early so she could spend the whole day at a friend's place, bad-mouthing her father, everything as usual. Alice went up to the second floor and approached the right classroom. By the window stood some girl in dark clothes. Ah, that's the new girl, probably. Exactly, that's her. Alice saw the teacher talking to her yesterday. Well, she's pretty. I should get to know her. They immediately needed another girl for their group. Marina had recently moved to another city, and now they were missing another friend. Now Alice would find out everything about her, see how the girl talked. Maybe she would fit the role of a new friend. Alice walked over to the window and said, "Hi, my name is Alice. Are you new? I saw you yesterday. What's your name?" The girl flinched and shrank back when she heard someone address her, but seeing Alice's friendly smile, she smiled timidly. "Hi, yes, I'm new. My name is Alina." The girl's voice was so quiet, but very beautiful. Alice thought that this name was very suitable for their group, and they would teach her to talk loudly. "Where are you from? Probably moved from another city. Or did your parents get divorced? Why did you transfer to our school?" Alina answered modestly, "No, I'm not from another city. My parents didn't get divorced. My father is not alive. I live with my mum. I transferred because this school is closer to home. It's more convenient." Alice nodded understandingly. "Yeah, that's cool. I understand. I live far away myself. It's such a hassle to commute back and forth every day. But my parents almost always drive me, either mom or dad. If they're fighting, then mom. If they've made up, then dad. All sorts of things happen. Does your mom have a car?" Elena looked away. "No, mom doesn't have a license." "Oh, that's bad. She should get a license. Now is the time when every woman should know how to drive a car. Let her get one, and then they'll teach you to drive too. I'm going to get my license right when I turn 18. I've already told my father about it. He promised to buy me a car as soon as I get my license. Can't wait." Alina glanced at Alice sideways and smiled slightly. "Yeah, that's cool, driving a car. I want to learn too." Alice adjusted her hair. "What iPhone do you have? 12 or 13? I hope it's not 13 because I only have 12. I want to be the first one to get a 13. "I don't have a phone, I lost it. Mum hasn't bought me a new one yet. Not yet," Alina answered awkwardly. "Oh, great. I hope she doesn't buy you one this week because Dad promised to buy me a 13 iPhone on Saturday, and then you can buy one." They stood and talked. Mostly Alice chattered, and Alina looked at her with admiration. Alice noticed this. Perfect. The new girl will work as a new friend. Soon other classmates started arriving. Alice took the new girl under her wing. She introduced her to every classmate, and everyone was friendly towards her. Soon the lesson began, and Alice sat Alina next to her. The whole day went wonderfully. Alina quickly made friends with everyone. She was so happy that she had found so many new friends, and everyone treated her wonderfully. Alice invited Alina to her place on Saturday. They were planning a slumber party with friends, and there would be an initiation into friendship for the new girl. It turned out that Alina loved to draw and was very good at it. And one boy, Igor, promised her that he would bring some special pencils that his father had brought from abroad. He really liked Alina, and he wanted to capture her attention by giving her an expensive gift. "They're so cool, you'll see. I have 2 boxes, I'll give you one of them. If you like them, you can buy more. Your mum can order them for you. I'll tell you how to do it later," my father told me. Igor hovered around Alina all day. The girl was over the moon with happiness that everything had turned out so well. She had been so afraid to transfer to a new school, especially this one, as it was quite a prestigious school with many children from wealthy families. For about a month, everything was fine. The classmates treated the new girl well. They didn't ask too many questions, and about her mum, Alina said that her mother was the owner of a cleaning services company, but only in another city. No one questioned why, in another city, many parents had businesses, not only in other cities, but also in other countries. But then something happened that completely changed the classmates' attitude towards Alina, and it happened exactly a month and a half after she appeared at this school. It was the 7th period. They were let out of class 10 minutes early. Alina ran to the restroom. Alice and her other friends said they would come a little later. They needed to talk to the teacher about correcting their unsatisfactory grades on the last test. It was Friday. The school was half empty. When Alina dropped her backpack and entered the adjoining room with the toilet stalls, she bumped into a cleaner in the doorway. The thin woman dropped an empty bucket in fright when Alina ran into her. Alina cried out and crouched down to pick up the rags that had fallen from the woman's hands. The woman looked exhausted. Deep wrinkles crossed her forehead. But the wrinkles weren't from old age, because the woman was still young. She was only 35 years old. These were wrinkles from the sorrows and misfortunes she had had to endure, and from hard labour. She had to work hard at difficult and lowest-paying jobs to support herself, her daughter, and her sick, disabled mother. This was Alina's mum, and she worked as a cleaner at this school. "Oh, my dear, they asked me to come earlier today. I need to prepare the assembly hall for the celebration." Alina frowned and hissed angrily. "I asked you not to call me my dear here. You promised. You said you would pretend we didn't know each other. Please don't let this happen again." "Mom? Is that your mom? Your mom is a cleaner?" A voice was heard from behind the girl. Alina turned pale. She slowly turned around and saw Alice and their friends. The girls looked at Alina with wide eyes, and then they scornfully and disgustedly examined Alina's mother from head to toe, noting every detail of her wretched appearance. Alina hoped that this fact would not affect their relationships, as she had already made friends with all her classmates, and everyone treated her well. But her dreams shattered when Alice looked at her. In her gaze, Alina read such disgust and anger that she understood. It was over. These girls would no longer be friends with her. There was silence. Everyone was quiet. You could hear the bell ring. Alice stirred and backed away, signalling her friends with her hand. "All right, we need to go. I have a party tomorrow, and I need to get ready for it with my friends, Karina and Svetlana." Alice emphasized the words, "my friends Karina and Svetlana." She made it clear that Alina was no longer among her friends. It was over. The girls hurried out of the restroom, giggling and whispering, and Alina knew they were talking about her. The girl stood, her shoulders slumped powerlessly. Alina wanted to belong in this school. There was hope that Alice was just upset with her. Alina would call in the evening from her old phone, which she didn't even bring to school, to ask her not to tell anyone what they had seen. Maybe Alice would agree not to reveal Alina's shameful secret, and no one else would find out anything. Even if she was no longer Alice's friend, at least everyone else in the class would still treat her the same way. Alina turned to her mother and shouted angrily, "I warned you! I told you if the same thing that happened at the other school happens again, I don't know what I'll do to you. You ruined everything again. How I hate you. You ruined my whole life. Everything started so well here, and again it's like you're doing everything on purpose." The woman folded her hands in front of her. "But I didn't mean to, Alina. It wasn't on purpose. I love you more than life itself, Please don't say such terrible things." Elena grabbed her bag and ran off, leaving her mother in the restroom. Elena called Alice all evening, but she didn't answer. And then she sent Elena a message. She stated that the party was still on and that they were expecting Elena tomorrow evening at the agreed time. And Elena was so happy. So they had forgiven her for lying, so they would still be friends with her, so things weren't as bad as she had thought. The next day, Elena arrived at Alice's party on time. She had prepared a whole speech to convince everyone of one thing, that her mother being a cleaner didn't mean anything. And she wanted to tell her story, that her father was rich and that he wanted to marry her mom because he loved her very much. Then Elena would have been the daughter of wealthy parents. But a tragedy happened, and Elena's father, along with his parents, were in an accident, and everyone died. Elena's father's uncle took all the property for himself, and the girl's mother was left with nothing. No fiancé, no husband, no education, no means of subsistence, only a sick mother and a future daughter in her belly. The girls should understand that Elena was not to blame for the way she and her mother lived, and for being poor. But one of the most terrible disappointments in her life awaited the girl. If she had known what awaited her, she would never have gone to that party in her life. When Alice let her into the house, Elena saw that all her classmates were there. She immediately suspected something was wrong. They shouldn't have been there. The party was only for friends. Everyone looked at Elena and was silent. Elena turned pale. She couldn't even speak. Her mouth was so dry. She wanted to run away from there, but her legs wouldn't move. And then Elena heard Alice's voice. "Dear classmates, I would like to introduce you to the new girl again. Our acquaintance began with a lie, and today I want to correct that. Today, only the truth will be told." Elena looked at Alice and shook her head slightly, her pleading gaze ready to pierce her friend's heart. But Alice looked at her mockingly and loudly proclaimed, looking her directly in the eyes, "Meet Elena, the daughter of our school's floor washer, the cleaner, the queen of toilets, the cleaning company business lady. Welcome to our modest party in my humble abode, O toilet princess, daughter of a wretched and ugly sloven." Everyone laughed loudly and together. Everyone pointed at her and whispered. Everyone, absolutely everyone, looked at her with disgust. Alice had managed to turn everyone against her. Elena backed away. She couldn't be there anymore. She turned to leave quickly before she started crying, when she heard from behind, "Yeah, go on, get out of here. You don't belong here. You have no right to relax and have fun in decent homes where respectable people gather. You should just be cleaning toilets like your mother. Although if you want, you can clean my toilet for me. I'll even pay you." Alice was shouting this. The classmates all heard, and they laughed at Elena, many agreeing with Alice. Elena ran out of the house. She ran for about 5 minutes. Only when she was far enough away did she slow to a walk, and then stopped altogether in the middle of the street. There were no tears, although at Alice's house she had wanted to burst into tears, but now the tears had gone somewhere deep inside. Something had happened to Elena. She suddenly realized how pathetic the people around her were, because for these people nothing mattered but money. They were so pathetic that compared to them, her mother was simply an angel, a queen, the richest woman in the world. And this woman had managed to raise a strong spirit in Elena. And Elena would no longer chase after these pathetic creatures, seeking friendship and approval, trying to become one of them. She would become herself, and she would achieve great success. She would no longer beg her mother to transfer her to another school. She was no longer afraid. She was now her own person, and no hurtful word or action would reach its target any more, because Elena was no longer susceptible to it. Now she would go home and apologize to her mother and tell her how much she loved her. And then she would go back to this school and pay no attention to anything. She was sure she could do it because her heart was now hidden behind a stone wall through which no one could break through and hurt her. 15 years passed. It was another class reunion. This year, the former 11th A class gathered almost in full. Their homeroom teacher, Ms. Evans, had been seriously ill in the fall. Many thought she wouldn't survive, but she managed to recover, and everyone decided to give her a surprise, to gather together to make her happy. In this life, one moment and a person is gone. You need to seize every moment. They were gathering at the school, in their former classroom. All grown men and women now, they approached each other, greeted each other, hugged, laughed and joked, recalling their childhood and youth. Miss Evans kept wiping away tears. She was so happy to see each of her beloved students. In half an hour, they were supposed to be at the restaurant they had booked for this evening. And suddenly, a very beautiful and slender young woman entered the classroom. She was dressed so elegantly, but not ostentatiously, that it immediately caught the eye. Alice, who was standing nearby, greedily examined the expensive jewellery on the woman's hands and her fur coat. God, it cost a fortune. Exactly who is she? She must have come to the wrong classroom. She definitely didn't study in their class, and she was clearly a couple of years younger than them. But then Alice met the woman's eyes, and she froze because there was something so familiar in that gaze, as if she had seen it somewhere before. And then the woman, looking intently at Alice, approached her with an elegant gait. The click of the heels of her expensive suede boots echoed clearly throughout the classroom because there was complete silence. Everyone watched the stranger carefully. And the woman, coming close to Alice, said quietly but confidently, "Hello, Alice, don't you recognize me? Don't you?" Alice recognized that voice immediately. It was the same as it had been more than 15 years ago. It was Alina. It was the school cleaner's daughter. God, how is this possible? "Alina," Alice began uncertainly, but fell silent. She didn't know what else to say. Alina smiled. "Yes, you recognized me. I haven't changed at all, have I?" Alice said nothing, and Alina turned away from her and walked over to the teacher. Miss Evans hugged the young woman. They talked for about 5 minutes. All this time, Igor couldn't take his eyes off Alina. He remembered how he had demanded his gift back. He demanded his pencils back when he found out that Alina was the cleaner's daughter. He hadn't wanted to do it then because he was in love with the girl, but he had acted at the insistence of all his classmates. If he had defended Alina then, he would have become an outcast too. He had chickened out. When Alina finished talking to Miss Evans, a few more classmates approached her. Everyone cautiously questioned Alina. Everyone was afraid to talk to her, but curiosity overcame their fear. They learned that Alina lived in America. She had been married to an American for 8 years. Her husband was very rich, and Alina herself wasn't poor either. She worked as a successful and popular designer. She had even been on television, but now she had her husband's last name, so if someone had seen her, they wouldn't have recognized her anyway. She worked with very famous people and even sometimes attended various prestigious events. She was even acquainted with some Hollywood stars. Her mum had been living with her in America for a long time. Alina had bought her a house, and the woman had happily remarried. Alina hadn't specifically planned to come to the class reunion, but it happened that she flew to the capital for a few days, and she decided to fly to her hometown for one day. Everyone was in shock at what they heard. How could this be? How had she managed to achieve such heights? After all, she was just a cleaner's daughter. She had grown up in poverty. No one in the entire class had even close to what she had now, considering that some had very wealthy parents. Many, on the contrary, hadn't even achieved success and lived ordinary lives, like average people. And many female classmates had married ordinary guys who didn't have a penny to their name. And Alina had achieved everything in life, starting with nothing, and even moved her mother to America. Some asked her how she had managed to achieve everything, but Alina didn't answer that. She only said, "I worked very hard and paid no attention to anyone who tried to humiliate me. In fact, you all know this from school. That's when I stopped being ashamed of my mother, when I accepted myself and my background. I realized that I could achieve anything I wanted, and so it happened. There's no secret." When they were all ready to leave for the restaurant, Igor approached Alina and said quietly, "Come with us to the restaurant. I've already called a taxi." But Alina shook her head. "No, I can't, even if I wanted to. I have a flight in an hour, and I need to go to the airport. A car is already waiting for me at the school. I must go." Igor walked Alina to the car. The driver waited patiently for her. When she approached, he opened the back door of the car for her. All the classmates watched this scene, and many were so envious they couldn't even hide it. But Alina paid no attention to anyone. She extended her hand to Igor. He shook it. "Will I ever see you again?" he asked hopefully. Alina smiled sadly and shook her head. "No, probably not. Nothing connects me to this city. I just flew in today, yielding to an impulse. Now I understand that I shouldn't do this anymore. Goodbye." And Alina prepared to get into the car. For a second she hesitated and turned back to Igor. "Igor, thank you for the pencils. Even though you took them back later, they played a significant role in my life. Thank you for everything, even for the complete disregard. I was once in love with you, and I'm glad we never ended up together. I wouldn't be as happy then as I am now. Goodbye." And Alina got into the car, leaving Igor. He watched the car for a long time, and even when the vehicle disappeared around the bend, he was still looking in that direction. He thought about the girl he had once been in love with, and who had now left a big mark on his heart in 40 minutes.